Benvenuti tutti, that's a soda pop from Soda Hues, and you're watching MOLOCH. This time we're going to open a book that's really special to me and I'm super excited I get to share it with you. It is UNIVERSITà by Soda Hues. And if you don't know, the channel is called MOLOCH, but my name is Soda, and I'm also an artist. I also make art, so I don't just open up books. And I started opening up books because I really wanted to make my own art book, and I wanted to learn about what I liked in art books. So I took all that knowledge and I tried to make the best art book I could make right now. And this is what I did. And the company that I'm making to publish these books, and hopefully I'll get to work with other artists soon, is called Soda Hues Publications. And so it kind of goes through the journey of me as an artist and how I got into art. Some of the earliest drawings I remember is when I couldn't get Pokemon cards, and so I just started making my own. And then I didn't draw so much for a while. I would occasionally make my own stuff, like I painted a ceramic car to look like the one from Need for Speed, the BMW, because I wanted it. And there was one point where my friends and I were really into American Ninja Warrior and parkour. And so I made my own Tempest shirt because I couldn't afford one. So this is from when I was in Italy. I used to be Mormon, some of you know, and so I served a mission in southern Italy. And at one point I was lucky enough to get the chance to be sponsored by the church to make these spray paintings that I learned how to do. I learned the techniques from watching this guy I saw in San Francisco on a trip. His name was Paco. And he made these incredible speed paintings with spray paint so fast. And I was thinking, I could do that. And one of my friends, Kyle, who was there, he was saying, we should try this because I think it would be a good way to interact with people. And so I made so many of these paintings. When I first started, I didn't have a mask, I didn't have gloves, I didn't have a cushion under me. And sometimes we'd do 4-hour sessions, 2 hours, 4 hours, and I would just be kneeling on the concrete. And if you've never handled a can of spray paint, you might not know that it gets colder when you agitate it. So sometimes when we were working at night, my hands would start to freeze and my legs just would hurt so bad they'd be locking up. But eventually the process got better, and I always enjoyed it, even when it hurt. It was fun. And because I was using so much spray paint, I started to meet a lot of the graffiti artists and some of the spray paint stores that are in southern Italy, which was really cool. And ultimately, with my friend Brandon Eldridge, we would end up doing some murals and some graffiti. I wanted to do some for so long. And this is a pretty big one. I would love to go back to this same wall and do something better now that I'm better at drawing. But it's a good memory for me. It was a 30 square meter mural. It was one of the biggest things I've ever done. And this is when I got back and I was about to go to college. I found this video of the Hammer hallway fight from Old Boy, the Korean Old Boy, on YouTube. And I started watching a lot of Korean films, and that kind of got me into a lot of the Asian action and Asian drama films that I love. And at this point I had started going to college. I attend Southern Utah University, and I'm studying graphic design and art history, criticism, and conservation. And during this time, I was really interested in LMAC and Retina's collaboration, so I started, doing my own script. These artists are really amazing. This is Anna Maturana, Miss Hazard, Zuli, Teresa, and Anna Stoos. They're all really great artists. You should check them out. So yeah, I would just go up to people at the university and ask if I could take a photo of them, or sometimes I'd just draw people sitting there, and then I would add my own script. And my script was inspired by a little bit by cuneiform, some of the older Arabic fonts and ways of writing. A little bit of Thai. So yeah, I would go around and just draw the people I ran into. I actually developed a couple of friendships from doing this. And as you can tell, I primarily work in ink. I really love ink. I love how decisive it is. I love how much contrast you end up having. Things aren't really muddy. You're really having to make decisions on deciding what's important and what you want the line to say. I really like that about ink. This, one second. This was actually the first piece I ever sold. And I sold it to someone in New York. And I sold it for $15. And I was just, I really wanted to eventually get to the point where I would feel comfortable charging more. And I promised myself I would work to get to that point. And when I sent it to the guy, the postman smashed it into his post box, so it was destroyed. So I had to send him, luckily I scan all of my work, so I was able to send him a scan and say sorry. But from that point on, I started really researching how to ship artworks. And so now I've got a really good system of how to ship artworks. Maybe I'll have to do a video about that. But now, yeah, I do everything I can, because it doesn't matter if it has a do not bend sticker or if it has fragile written on it. They will destroy your artwork, unfortunately. And I also, around this period, while I was, getting really into watching a lot of Asian films, I had seen clips of Akira on YouTube, but I had no idea what it was about. I thought it was just kind of maybe about an adventure of a couple bike gangs. Turns out it was much, much more than that. But I discovered that, and I discovered the manga after that, and that's when I started getting into manga. And I really loved just the artwork of Katsuhiro Otomo. His line is so amazing. And so I did some master studies where I would, look at a panel that I loved from him, and I would try and copy it and dissect, what did I like about his line? Why did I prefer that panel? And what could I learn from him? I also really was attracted to Roy Lichtenstein, and I learned that what he was doing was actually from like these pulp graphic novels, these horrible romance novels. The stories and everything in them are just so ridiculous. But the art inside, the illustration, I think is just absolutely gorgeous. And I love it. So I did some master studies from some of those old pulpy graphic novels to try and, garner some more information and knowledge from that. This, I did a few little graffitis around Cedar City, some street art. This one I did as part of a project because I love the Vaccines music. And I loved the album English Graffiti. And my favorite track from it is English Graffiti. I also love Handsome, but English Graffiti is amazing, but it's not included on the album. Like the standard album, only the deluxe. And I was also upset that there was no graffiti on the album. There was such a wonderful opportunity for fantastic album art. So I kind of made my own graffiti that I then photographed to turn into a vinyl sleeve. But there's a lot of cops in Cedar. Like, we have so many police for such a small town, it's insane. And of course, the police, a police sergeant ran by me on his morning jog. And actually, it was an afternoon jog. And he called his squad. And so I had a run-in with the police that was extremely awkward. And they were forcing me to sit there and paint over it. Luckily, I wasn't shot, didn't go to jail, but it was a high stakes, stressful moment. So yeah, I started to get more and more confident and comfortable, I think. Started to feel better about what I was able to create. And this book has a lot of content. I can't remember exactly how many drawings and photographs are contained within. Whenever the Kickstarter comes up, you should check it out. It'll have all the details there. There's 302 pages. It's a very big book. It's going to be hardcover. Probably the best way to find out when and where the Kickstarter is happening would be to find me on Instagram. That's where I post the most frequently. These are some old drawings of Sad House, and a little bit of explanation about what Sad House means to me. I took, even though it wasn't a part of my major, I started taking figure drawing and as many of the anatomy and drawing classes I could, because I knew that I was getting into drawing seriously rather late in age, and my dad would often talk about that because my father, he's a really good oil painter, and he would talk about how I really needed to strengthen my understanding of anatomy, because that was definitely one of the points I needed to improve on. And so I started taking a lot of these classes even though they weren't required, and trying to gain experience. It's kind of incredible sometimes, and I do really want to give that experience to other artists. When I take this, I mean, there's that little section from the beginning that kind of shows how I got into art and has some of the earlier, right after high school and childhood works. But the main bulk of this book was created, the artwork was created in the last 4 years. And you're probably seeing that's a lot of drawings. It always feels weird to talk about myself and my work, but I guess I would say that I am prolific. I do work a lot. I draw a lot. And it's just kind of a surreal experience after making the book to have this like physical object that's a very good representation of all this work I did in 4 years for the most part. It's like kind of powerful, and it's just a different emotion that's kind of hard to explain. And I would love to be able to share that with other artists. I also think it's important that there's ways for artists to make money and share their work in a way that isn't scammy or where they're being exploited or taken advantage of. I've been growing a lot on Instagram. I need to work on Twitter, but I've been growing a lot on Instagram, especially the last, year. The growth has kind of been a little bit more exponential. And so I've been getting a lot of these emails that are invites to, shows, magazines, festivals, art books even. And a lot of them, it's kind of ridiculous. Like one of them, the application process to be in one of the art books was like $200. And they had a whole bunch of things they were saying, it's definitely not guaranteed that you're going to be chosen. But I didn't search them out. Why the hell would you email me offering me to apply to your book if you don't know that you would want to make a book of my art? Sounds to me like you just want a couple $100. And I think it's unfortunate because time and time again it has been proven that design, art, entertainment is very valuable. It's very valuable to society and culture. But sometimes people have these stereotypes and opinions of it, or there are people who pretend that they're involved in arts and culture and all that stuff to try to make a quick buck, and they give it a bad name. So sometimes it's hard for people to understand the value that art can give to life and the world, and the fact that people who make art definitely should be able to live off of their work. Sorry, I'm trying to hold down these pages. It's a big book, and it hasn't been opened that many times, so it's still a little stiff. These ones are based off of photographs by some artists. Well, I guess, I don't know if they would call themselves artists. They're more photojournalists. I really love the work of Lindsay Addario. If you haven't ever heard of her, you should check her out. She does amazing work. The other one is by Narendra Shrestha. I may not be saying that right, but I'm pretty sure this was from Nepal. This is a mortar strike going off. And this one is from a Syrian refugee, and I thought she looked... I mean, she was obviously exhausted. She had kind of passed out and had an IV. But I thought she still looked extremely dignified, and I think it's important that, you know, refugees are often thrust into circumstances that are unideal and can make them look very poorly. But it's important to remember the humanity despite some of the appearances that, you know, these are people, and we could just as easily end up in those sort of circumstances. There's not much difference between us and them when it comes to people who are forced to be refugees. I met a lot of refugees in Italy, and it was always very sad. A lot of amazing people, mostly from Nigeria, but I love those people. And these are from the artists I went on fieldworks with, which was a journey. It was over 2,000 miles, I think. We journeyed around the Great Basin and saw some amazing things, amazing landforms and museums and places. And this section is dedicated to the faculty who really helped me in my journey as an artist and made a lot of this possible. Everything I learned about design and typography is basically from Mary Page. She did a lot of great things, and it's too bad she left, but I think she went on to a really good school, and I'm always going to be grateful for everything she taught me. Ben Kirkby, I consider a friend, and he helped a ton with this book. I'm used to working with text, not really with just image-based, you know, page layouts, so he helped a ton with that process. Sam was really kind in being patient with me because I didn't have a lot of experience with photography, and he helped me get to the point where I could better light my video setup and where I could take product shots for my Kickstarter of my book, and I'm really grateful for that. Stuart Robinson, we did an art acquisition, and that was a really good experience for me to learn about. Marvik helped me fall in love with art history and helped me understand a little bit more about the value in contemporary art and some of the context around that. Jeff has given a ton of great advice about being an artist and, you know, the business side of arts. Sunny was so good. She would help me in the summer. I don't really have a good computer that can handle a lot of that design software I need. My computer tends to crash a lot, and I haven't been able to afford a new one just yet. So in the summer, she would walk all the way to the lab sometimes and help me get in so I could keep working. And Stephen Swift was really great too. He helped me feel more confident in pursuing things besides just design and kind of combining other things with design. He also was really great. He would congratulate me whenever it looked like I had a new opportunity and kind of console me if any of those opportunities ever turned out to be a scam. Ben was really good. He helped me with anatomy a lot and was patient, even though I definitely was not as good as the other students and was not an illustration major. He still helped me be involved within the class. Eric was really great as a mentor in drawing, and I learned a lot of great things about line work and hatching and just how I want to represent the figure in my own artwork. And he gave me some experience with pastels, which was really cool. I always wanted to learn a little bit more about that. I love his art. You should check out Eric Brown's art. Oh, Randall is such a personality, and he's really helped me a lot in terms of taking my own work seriously. He was one of the first people to really look at my drawings seriously, and he was honest too. He would sometimes look at them and be like, I think you have something there. I really like the way that curve is, but I also would sometimes be looking at something and say, I don't know about this, or oh, this is unresolved. This is not working out. But Tuzak was very merciful to me and very understanding during the class that happened during the virus, and took the time to really read my essays and gave some good feedback. So I really appreciate these people and everything they did for me. And there's plenty of other people that I'll probably have to mention in future books that I make of my artwork, but this is just the beginning. And I'm looking really forward to releasing it to the public, and I hope you want to check it out. It would mean a lot to me if you looked me up on Instagram. My link is in the description. It's at Soda Hues, and I hope that you eventually check out the book when it comes on Kickstarter, and maybe get one for yourself if you're interested. That's my art, and that's my art book. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys again.
You're such a sweet